All right, Coach, we talked last week about what was this defense's identity going to be? What was it going to try to prove out there? What do you feel like you proved with the first shutout in the program in 4 years?
Well, just probably the biggest thing there is that we have the potential to continue to keep rising. And one thing that we always stress to the players is being able to be consistent and consistent in how you apply your fundamentals. And that's something that's our major stress for this week, because there are some things that we still have out there that we still have to get better at, just fundamentals. And we were pleased with what we did. The young men were able to go out and apply some things, but probably the biggest thing that we stress to our players is you go out there and you play as hard as you can. Get to your rev limiter. Don't let there be anything left in the tank. And we saw that if you go do that, you can overcome some potential challenges and issues. So that's something that we're continuing to try to build on as we get into this week, which is the next big week.
I know you talked tackling, takeaways, and effort. The tackling, everyone's raving about that. We saw the takeaway with MOSBY, our player of the week in the conference now, and you just talked about the effort. But how pleased were you with the amount of depth you were able to get a feel for and the amount of guys who got reps?
Well, that is something that we had our aim set high for, and honestly, I feel very happy that we endured the scenario that we were in. With it being 150 degrees plus on the turf where your shoes are ready to melt, seeing the mindset of the players, because we tell them you don't blink. And every player, you have to get ready to come in, and we don't want there to be any drop-off. So we're very pleased with what we call the next dog in, with everyone coming into the game.
Obviously, it'll be a different challenge this week. What are some of the things that you're watching for with regard to Oregon and the challenges they pose?
Well, whenever you play a top 5 perennial power team, there won't be very many deficiencies. So we have to make sure fundamentally the blocking, tackling, playing with maximum effort, and making your play at the point of attack, because this is what you call one of those race for space teams. They're trying to get you in one-on-one matchups. And what they want to do is allow their skill to be better than your skill at the point of attack, and have your next level player have to make the play. So one of our primary focuses, again, is just going to be on, hey, fellas, be patient, make your play. The environment is never too big. You've been trained for this, but you should also have a chip on your shoulder, something to prove, because some of the teams that you play, most of the players on our football team didn't have a chance to get recruited by some of these teams. So I think our players will have a great edge on them as we get ready for Saturday.
Coach, you weren't here when Aaron MOSBY was in the secondary, but what can you say about the transition he's made to now 3 positions and having the success he had last week against UCONN?
It's something that we always kind of had our eyes set on previously. We just knew that we just wanted to make sure we could be in a scenario we could have all of our what we called sweat equity in place, where Aaron's been in the program, obviously, with us for a year and a half, where he was not injured. So we said, if we can get our 11 best individuals on the football field, let's put them in scenarios where they can have a chance to make some plays. And Aaron showed that with great detail he can be able to do that.
I know you've been looking at the Oregon film for kind of the whole fall camp, but what sort of challenges just on the speed aspect do they provide?
Just like our offense, just like going against our offense every day, very fast at all the effective skill positions. They have a running back who can stretch the football field. A few running backs, the receivers speak for themselves, but the thing that most people don't know about is every football team will usually carry the personality of their head coach. So Coach Cristobal is an offensive-minded and offensive line-minded team. You see, they are physical men up front in the trenches, and that's going to be our biggest challenge, making sure that we can match the physicality with the guys in the trenches up front.
Their quarterback, Brown, has only, I think, played 2 games for Oregon. Is there enough game film on him? Do you go back to the Boston College days?
Yes, there is. The one thing that is from a game film standpoint, when you see the ball in his hands, the ball is in the hands of an athlete. And he has the ability to do anything with that football at any point in time. He brings the added threat, because now you have to account for another person who can run the football. And that's exactly kind of what he did in his Boston College days. So we have to make sure we have a great plan for that and keeping him contained.
I know you won't be coaching to stop him. That's more Coach Grubb's job than yours. But Kayvon Thibodeau is being talked about as being the #1 pick in the NFL draft next year. As a defensive guy, are you impressed with what he brings to the table, what you've seen from him?
I want to coach him. Yes, but when you talk about a total package, he reminds me of someone that I had a chance to coach many moons ago. You have to know exactly where 5 is. If he is not in the game, I think our chances are very good on offense. But someone from our end, I got a very high respect for. When you see him on film, he plays hard. He is tough at the point of attack. He can rush the passer. In a sense, he checks all the boxes. Has the body type that you want. And I got full faith in Coach Grubb and the offensive staff of being able to hopefully minimize him in the football game.
How would you classify Elijah Gates and what we saw from him on Saturday and what his role is going to be on this team moving forward?
Yeah, Elijah is growing. Showed that he can come in and be able to make some plays at the point of attack. Probably the thing that we've been pleased with the most is his ability to come in and help drive the defense from a secondary standpoint. He can be able to get all the guys lined up. He can be able to make all the checks. And we're just looking forward to continued growth from him as you go from week 1 to week 2, which is one of the things that we're really challenging our players on. The signs of great teams, those teams, you make your biggest growth and your biggest gains from week 1 to week 2.
Coach, you said that Kayvon Thibodeau reminded you of a player that you once coached. I was just curious. I believe you coached Khalil Mack when you were at Buffalo. Does he remind you of all of Khalil Mack, Kayvon Thibodeau?
Yeah, for sure, because he can take over a game, a play at any moment. Yes. And probably the biggest difference, obviously, with Thibodeau being a little bigger, there are some things he can do on the interior and on the inside as well. But definitely someone on our end, I know we have a high regard and a lot of respect for as a player.
When facing some players like that, it seems like the biggest deal is catching up to the speed and physicality. We've seen some Bulldog teams that might take a quarter or so. Is there something you can do to bridge that and come out of the gates fast against a team like this?
Well, it's some of the things that we're doing some good on good as well, team against team, just so we can continue to be able to match some of the speed. Because offensively and defensively, everybody has things that you do that are very, very, very similar. So those things that we're trying to do to be able to match up some of the speed and quickness is to be able to go some good on good.
Cale Sanders got the conference freshman of the week. I know there weren't a ton of candidates, but what did you see from him?
The one thing that we see from CJ, he's someone who's fearless. He is exactly what you want in a cornerback personality. He has an extremely short-term memory to where what happened on the last play, he lets it go and he's on to the next one. Someone who is very eager to learn. And he's got a great skill set from a physicality, and we saw this during the summertime. And it's kind of odd because the person who saw this the most was Jake Hayner. He came in during the summer. Hey, Coach, you guys should be able to see CALE and some of the drills that they were doing. This kid stands out. We don't know he's a freshman. So that kind of allowed us to be able to say, hey, you know what? Let's put a little more steam into him and see if he's ready. So when we turned up the water on the fire hose, he was able to drink enough to get some of the things that he needs to in order to be successful.
And you mentioned last week about the depth you have on defense, and you certainly used it even in the first 2 quarters. Is that something we can expect all season long, or is there maybe some competition on Saturdays going on with some of those players?
There's always some healthy competition and conflict going on. But what we try to challenge our players on, if you need to come out of the game and the next man comes in and he can play as hard as you and as good as you, now that's exactly what you want. Because something that we're trying to tell our players about all the time is the ability for you to be selfless. You shouldn't say, well, hey, I'm tired. I want to stay in and not have him come in. You should be able to trust and know, hey, if I come out, this next man is going to come in and he's going to play even more effective, and then I'll be able to come in a couple of plays. So that's something that we kind of been working on all throughout the summertime, all throughout the fall camp as well. So seeing some of the depth things come into play, we were very happy at this point in time, and hopefully everyone can continue to grow and continue to keep taking steps to where, reps, they may not be 50-50, but at least you have a valuable group of next dogs in. And in championship teams, one thing that's always critical is how the next players play. It's not the starters, because most teams, all the starters are very good. It's all about the next men in. How they play gives you the best chance to be able to win a championship.
One more question for Coach Inge.
Coach, was there a lot
No, for us, we try to begin with the end in mind, in that we're just trying to play each play and go 1-0 on that particular play. We try not to look at the final portion of the game. You just manage your play on that play or that given down. The outcome is going to be the outcome, and we're very pleased with how the game ended. But that was not one of our primary focuses. And we try to make sure that we keep our focus channeled in the right direction, because often when you begin to start to think about something like that, I think you all know exactly what occurs. So from our standpoint, we're trying to just make sure we keep a broad-based perspective with respect to you play the next play. Let's make sure you go 1-0 on this particular play, and everything else will work itself out.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you all very much. Go Dogs.
All right, we got Coach Grubb.
How we doing? Pretty good? Good.
Let's start with the crazy one, Coach. How much weight did you lose Saturday out there?
None.
In
I
that
was
heat?
in the box. It was air conditioned. I did pretty good. I was doing all right.
You kept the window closed?
I did open it, so it was mainly just my forearms were sweaty, but otherwise I had a pretty cool day.
There are a lot of things that the Red Wave was excited about. What were you most pleased with the offensive performance?
You know, I think the first part was the challenge to the guys to overcome a slow start. And we had seen a lot of film evidence of UCONN sticking with a lot of good football teams, including Coach DeBoer's Indiana team. You know, I think it was 7-3 late in the second quarter in that Indiana game. So just I knew our guys had very high expectations of what they were going to accomplish out there on Saturday. And so dealing with some adverse conditions and, you know, rising through that and still being able to execute and a couple of first possessions, they were sluggish. So just sticking with the game plan and nobody hitting the panic button and just really having a deep-seated belief that we were going to do something great there and that we were going to explode. And I think that's what people saw in the second quarter.
Explode's a good word for it. You know, we'll all be talking about the matchup between your offense and Oregon's defense, and the name Tim DeRuyter is going to come up. Bulldog fans remember him. But is there something you know about his style defensively that you're looking at going into this game to try to prepare, since he hasn't coordinated a game for the Ducks yet?
Yeah, I think we've watched a lot of coaches' film, obviously, from his days at Cal and the style of defense that he ran. And I think you see disciplined kids. I think you see guys in the right spots that are running to the football. And it's going to be difficult to get any type of deception plays where their guys aren't disciplined. So I think that'll be a big challenge.
No sacks for your quarterback on Saturday. How do you replicate that at Autzen Stadium, specifically with that threat that the defensive end provides?
Yeah, Jake's got to get that ball out on time, right? I think that'll be a big part of it, is staying in rhythm, you know, and not getting ourselves into a position where Jake has to hold the ball and trying to get it, you know, out on time. And then obviously the O-line has to play well. They got to know what the matchup is, and not just number 5, but, you know, they got some other good guys up front as well. 29's a good edge rusher, and 50's much improved. And so we're looking for a pretty steady dose of a heavy pass rush, and just got to execute and be ready to stay firm up there and do their job.
You had back-to-back one-play touchdown drives Saturday. What do you attribute that kind of explosiveness to? Is that kind of the threat that this offense can provide?
I do think they can. You know, and we started a little bit conservative as far as how we approached the game and trying to feel some things out to see if UConn had, you know, really changed much in the last 2 years. And then once we kind of had them dialed in, I felt like there's a couple calls that we were going to be able to get to early. And I'd communicated that with the offense that, you know, we just need to execute at the right time. And if we get the look that we're anticipating, let's make sure it counts. And they did exactly that. They executed really well.
So it's your task, not Coach Inge's, but your task to stop Kayvon Thibodeau. Do you think what you've seen on film that he is worthy of being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year?
You know, obviously I haven't evaluated all the guys that would be going into the draft, but as far as my exposure to FBS defensive ends, and, you know, I've seen some pretty good ones in my day, from Michigan State back when they won the Big Ten title, to Florida when they were in the top 5, and, you know, Bama Washington, been through a few of them, and he is as complete a defensive end as I've ever seen. So he's a long player, has good body lean when he rushes the passer, but it's not just a speed situation. He's more than willing and capable to be physical. He has a lot of different pass rush styles, meaning he can go from speed to bull, straight speed. He can beat you on the inside. So I think he's a very, very complete player. So as far as the draft status, I'm not sure, but I would imagine if I was one of the top 5 teams in the NFL, I'd probably want that guy on my team. He's a good player, and I heard Coach Inge say it before, and couldn't agree more. Sometimes you see really talented players, and they don't necessarily play hard all the time. And I think 5 has a great motor and is worthy of that praise. So he's a good football player.
Just on playing Oregon in general, the environment, the atmosphere, the name, this team obviously is hyped to play the game. How do you kind of temper down that excitement so they're not all over the field in a different headspace and they could just focus on what's happening between the lines?
Yeah, that's been one of the privileges of working here at Fresno State. When I got here in 2017, I thought that was one of the messages that, Coach DeBoer and I both really learned from Coach Tedford. And I know Coach DeBoer still preaches it, and the standard's the standard. And I think if you train your guys to play whoever the opponent is that week to the best of their ability, you'll have a steadier, more focused football team throughout the course of a season versus trying to get way up for say a rivalry game against Boise State or a big game like Oregon, and then they're on a different level versus another team, and you'll get the roller coaster effect during a season. So the standard of the preparation has to stay high, no matter the opponent. And I think that there's some built-in, outs there for you with your guys where you don't have to let them get too high. And when the game comes, it's still a 100-yard field and you're still playing a stadium. There'll be some extrinsic situations that they'll have to deal with, crowd noise and such, but there always are those things. And I think as long as you manage it that way and you don't try to build it into something, some insurmountable mountain, the guys will do an awesome job. And we've seen that from a lot of big games we played here already.
Jake having experience in the Pac-12 against Oregon when he was at Washington, does that help you guys? Does he have any insight that can be an advantage in this case?
Yeah, we've got a lot of guys that have had, not only experience playing there, but other guys that have coached up there. And, I think that's the most important thing is just understanding what the environment's going to be. And it's going to be a lively crowd, and there's going to be a lot of noise issues and things like that. So stressing communication and execution during the week will be critical. And both the players and other coaches that I've reached out to throughout the country that have played there, have really stressed the importance of understanding that, specifically on third down and red zone and things like that. So we'll have to be ready for that for sure.
Coach Grubb, I'm curious, how much of the playbook did you really use on Saturday against UConn, and how much is it under wraps to try and introduce it for the first time against Oregon?
Yeah, I think every week, I think one of the things we do pretty well as an offense, it's been like that for a long time with Kalen, is just we're I don't want to call us a game plan offense, but the whole playbook is in play every week, and then it's our job as a staff to match up what's applicable against that particular defense. So I think every week the whole, playbook is out there and available to us.
Coach, you commented on the O-line. Is that 5 kind of locked in, or is that still an evaluation at the moment?
Yeah, well, the game on Saturday, I was just talking to Rome about this, and we played 8 combinations. I think that's conservative. I think it was actually 10 because Dante Atkins played 3 different positions. So there was a lot of guys rolling around out there, but we got a good evaluation of our top 7 guys. I think there'll still be some competition for 2 spots on Tuesday to try to evaluate who's going to be able to handle, the noise and that type of, chaos that we're going to create at practice. And then from then, Wednesday we'll probably lock that in and roll. But it'll be pretty close to what you saw.
And I know the number 2 quarterback spot has been a fluid situation. Is it as simple as saying Logan is number 2 because he entered the game, or how would you explain kind of the intricacies of where that is?
Yeah, no, I would say it's still definitely open again. And those guys have known that, been very clear with them, so that they have a good understanding of what the process will be throughout the season and with how close that competition is and what each player can bring as far as different attributes against the defense. I think that every week that has to be reassessed, and we'll do the same this week. We'll look at it, see how they both prepare, not only in meetings, but when they get out there and execute on Tuesday. And they'll both get a few reps, and I'll probably on Tuesday after practice talk to Coach DeBoer, and we'll make that call.
You mentioned watching film on Cal. Do you watch film on Fresno State with DeRuyter's teams when he was here? Is that part of the process at all?
We went back as far as we could go because we had, we've had a lot of film and looked at the years, different years, and how Coach DeRuyter has, changed some of his calls and maybe even some of his style from year to year. So, and we've had, the summer to watch some of those things. So we looked all the way back to there. Yep.
Take one last question for Coach Grubb. All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning. I think you heard a lot of things that we feel good about and some things we got to continue to work on. Both sides of the ball. Not having a special teams coordinator up here speaking, probably that's one area I could add a little bit to. I felt really good about what Cesar Rivas showed us on Saturday, especially just the way he kicked the ball off. Haven't seen that for a while. Getting the ball in the end zone, I think 5 out of 7 times. One of them was a kick after a penalty, and so we were kicking off from the 20, and he still would have put it about a yard or two deep in the end zone. And just the 51-yard field goal that we attempted definitely had plenty of leg. I think we'd all agree a couple years ago probably would have been struggling to kick that consistently, but he hit it solid, and he's been doing that in practice. And he's getting the ball up much better than he did 2 years ago. I could see the improvement last year, and just really pleased with how he performed. He's a guy that our players and our coaches have a lot of confidence in. We need to punt the ball a little bit better for sure. That's one area we got to be better. Carson, just has to block out the noise. The things that are happening around him and just focus on kicking it. He's got an extremely strong leg, and so I know that that's going to come. It's just a matter of more experience and more opportunities.
Since you started out with the added strength to Silva's leg, that was very noticeable. And as you mentioned, that field goal would have been good if it were straight enough, good for maybe 58, 59.
Right.
How much does that change things from a strategy and play calling scenario? Are there some options you're going to have that you didn't have a year ago?
Yeah, I think it's more about too, like when it really matters. I just feel like he's confident. So if it's a game-winning field goal that you got to hit, I just think he can. He doesn't have to put anything extra into it. It's naturally something he can do. One other guy that's coming along really well is Abe Montano, and he's the backup to Cesar, and he does have a big leg. He kicks extra points like he's kicking 60-yard field goals, and so the ball goes and goes and goes and goes, and so he kicks hard no matter what. But I think in Cesar's case, we do have confidence, and we're going to be aggressive going for it. When we get inside the opponent's territory, and we'll continue to do that. We went for it 2 times on Saturday. We were actually going to go for it on the first drive of the game. We just messed up the substitution. And, I just didn't feel like the rhythm was there then and wanted to kick it and punt it away. And so, we were going to go in that situation early in the game. But, again, we're going to be aggressive when we get in those areas. But Cesar's certainly ready to go and showed that.
And we talked last week, you'd never come down the ramp with fans in the stands. So now you have. What did that feel like the first time that you had that experience?
Yeah, I was probably a little too hyped up. So the head coach and the players know that maybe he's a little easygoing and all of that. I was pretty amped up in the locker room and coming down the ramp, so I was pretty fired up. But it was great. It was what I was thinking it was going to be, and I know our guys were excited as well. So it was a fun day.
Last one for me. What was most satisfying about Saturday? Because I know you evaluate a lot of different things.
Yeah.
What was what pleased you the most?
I think just the way, when you're on the sideline and you're walking up and down, and just the way the guys handle handle things. Our defense really never had any adversity, and so I can't say that, I truly understand what their response is going to be, when things don't go perfect. I mean, they didn't ever get into the red zone, and so, and we did just a great job, and I think we gave up one explosive the entire game, and so I can't say that I know exactly how we'll handle that. I like to think I know because we talk about it all the time, and we put our guys in that situation. I think we're much better than we were a year ago. I think we're more confident, and so it's just a matter of any adversity that hits us is temporary, and we got to get the momentum back on our side. But I think from an offensive standpoint, Coach Grubb talked about, we started a little slow, but it wasn't anything where I saw anything in any guy's eyes like, what's going on? It's just a matter of, hey, someone just is going to make a play, and once we make that one big play, we'll be off and running. And that happened. I think really it was the play to Kelly, the throw down to the left side along their sideline. And once we hit that, it was kind of like, here we go. This is what it feels like. And Jake really settled in, and the rest of the guys did their jobs, and that's really what it comes down to, is just do your job, and it's going to be done well because we're a talented football team.
Coach Grubb kind of talked about it, but this is the first ranked opponent since 2018. Do you talk about that challenge with the guys, and if so, what's that message?
Yeah, we will, and we're gonna embrace that, and I just feel like we have a team, and as our coaches, there's this trust, there's this piece where we should be able to talk to each other and say, hey, these are the real challenges that we're up against this week, and we're going to be, we're never going to overlook someone, and we're never going to get, it's going to be about the preparation we put into each game, but we're going to be real, like guys, if we face a team that we should beat, we're going to talk about it and make sure we bring our best and keep improving every play. And that really is the same thing that should apply here against Oregon. We need to play or prepare our best. We need to play our best, and that's all we can control. And then worry about the rest of it will take care of itself. But it's going to be something we embrace. It's going to be an exciting atmosphere, and our guys are in a good spot, I think, after this first week. And we want, that's what you play for. You want to be tested, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
On that atmosphere note, this will be your first game with non-fake crowd noise. How do you prepare for that environment?
Yeah, no, we will. We have done some of that in fall camp just because a year ago, Jake never had to worry about even just the orchestration and how we're going to handle it, and so we did some of that for a few days in fall camp in preparation for this game. And so our guys, tomorrow when we step on the football field, it's not going to be the first time that they've gone through the mechanics of how we're going to, prepare for that. So we'll certainly have it loud, at practice all day tomorrow.
I guess, Coach, I'll be the one to ask you about Tim DeRuyter. Is he somebody that you have crossed paths with at some time before in your travels, or are you going to be, I guess, meeting him for the first time when you get out there too?
No, I met him actually, I think it was in between 17 and 18 at a camp. And he's a great guy, and when I got here, just embracing all the past and the tradition, he is someone I sought out, sent him some pictures of what's on the wall, told him thank you for everything he's done for this program. You don't win 2 championships by accident. There's a lot that he's given to this program, and nothing but the utmost respect for who he is as a person, because I do know him well enough to, and have heard enough being around the community of what type of person he is. And obviously, again, he won 2 conference championships here. That's a big deal. And so nothing but great respect for him, and him running his defense. I know he's going to do a great job of it there, and has always done that. So we know we got our hands full with what he's going to bring to us this Saturday.
And Coach Grubb kind of alluded to it, but what does a Tim DeRuyter coach defense, at least in 2021 at Oregon, look like? Yeah,
you always evolve, and so I think that's the hard part in figuring out exactly what we're going to see, because he wasn't, he was the coordinator before, last year, but you're under a head coach that's also a defensive guy at his previous place, and so it's like, how much of that was the head coach, how much was him, how much has he changed over the years, how much now with different personnel at Oregon is going to be adjusting what he really wants to do. And, all that comes into play. Just look at us from 17 and 18 and what we were then compared to now. We were a lot of 2 tight ends. Now we're a lot of 3 and 4 wide. And that's just because of the personnel we have. And so him going to where he's got different personnel, you have all those all those tricks in your bag, And so it's just a matter of, what's their style going to be. And so, we're kind of a little bit prepared for everything. We've done a ton of research and trying to figure out what the base stuff's going to be. And, that's what we're prepared for. But we'll have to make some adjustments, certainly, as the game goes on.
Oregon's got a couple of Valley guys on its roster, Steve Stevens, Keanu Williams. Are those guys that you recruited that were trying to come here and become Bulldogs?
They're not guys that I felt like we were deep into it with, but certainly aware of that.
Hey, Coach, can you just talk a little bit about what are the pros and cons of, you guys played last week, Oregon didn't. This is going to be their first game, so they're probably going to come out with a lot of energy. What do you tell the team just, of I guess, taking that first maybe, blitz that they're going to have or that first big play where their fans are going to go nuts?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. Good point. We have to be ready for that energy that they're going to have, it being their first game. I even sensed that and thought about that and equated it to our game on Saturday. And there was a time that that they got a first down on Saturday, UConn did, and our band started playing. It still felt like we were in a good spot. We're up 21-0. They get a first down. Boom, the energy and momentum seemed to get right back on our side and flip it. So that's what we're going to be up against on Saturday. And I know they're going to be fired up. And I feel, there are some benefits. Just think about how the first quarter went, even though our defense did a great job. We got our feet underneath of us now. We know what it feels like, that game speed. It's going to be ramped up another level just because we're facing, a top-tier team in the country. And so, what they have on us now is they have a pretty good understanding of who our personnel are and kind of what our base stuff is coming out of the gate. But they had that probably before the season as well.
Coach DeBoer, what'd you like from Logan Fife coming into that game when Jake Haener obviously went to a full body cramp, like he said? What'd you like from him in terms of being able to step in that role in that heat and score a touchdown with Raymond Powell's?
Yeah. I didn't feel like when I looked him in the eyes that there was anything where he was overwhelmed or concerned. He made all the play calls. I would give him the play call and he could recite it right back to me, leaving the sideline. And so I really felt like his preparation was in a good place. He was ready for that moment, ready for that opportunity. And, just some things that I think go along with the playing at the college level. A couple balls got tipped and, he's got to find some passing lanes and move his feet a little bit in the pocket a little bit more. But for the most part, he executed and ran the offense. We didn't have delay games and all that kind of stuff. He got us into protection checks and so forth the way he needed to and executed the offense. And the first time out, given the circumstance, thought he did a good job.
The weather played a big role last Saturday. I'm sure now you're going to look at the weather in Oregon to make sure it's not as hot. Pretty sure it won't be, but do you foresee any external forces affecting Saturday's game, like the weather or anything else?
I think the noise is the biggest thing. In fact, that's the part, I feel really good about us having some very talented guys across the board. And, for the entire year, I feel like we can go play, anyone out there. But, you add the noise on top of it. And that's going to be certainly something that plays a factor in it.
The defense pitched a shutout on Saturday. What do you think was the biggest part of that? And what kind of impressed you the most? Maybe something you weren't expecting to see Saturday, but you saw.
Yeah, I like how we were ready to go right away. And, the energy maybe that haunted us or just the way with the offense at the beginning, probably really enjoyed seeing the defense feed off of that and, just cut it loose and go. Watching the film, there's always mistakes and things you got to do better, but it wasn't these glaring missed assignments where a gap was just, not taken care of either by a defensive line or anyone in the front. You could see the safeties fit in the way they needed to fit, and we'll continue to have to play faster and adjust quicker and see different looks, from week to week. We had a lot of time to get prepared for the first game, and so, a week like this now, you're on the normal weekly schedule where you only get Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, walk through Friday. Here we go. So now can our guys adjust to less reps in preparation. But I was just really excited about that, along with, I thought that's the best we've tackled since, the beginning of last season for sure. Just a couple missed tackles here and there, but we had a lot of pursuit that made up for it. Got to the ball, and I thought there was just a lot of great energy and excitement when we made plays. And so that's a result of us being confident. You can see that in the guys, that we're a much more confident defense than we were a year ago.
Coach, was there any individual in 2019 you had the game plan for in the Big Ten that compares to Kayvon Thibodeau and what you're anticipating from him?
There are. I think there's always some of those guys that you do have to game plan. You're kind of catching me off guard here, but I think Northwestern had a guy or two. Michigan. I think there's guys, and over the years, Coach Grubb was talking. We've been together. You can hear him rattle off those. I know exactly who he's talking about when you talk about defensive ends, and we're on the same page with what some of our answers are to help slow down maybe a pass rush, or do you run at him, do you run away from him, what is it that you do? And so I know we're discussing that, and we've already talked about it even before we got into this week over the summer months. But just some of those answers are fortunately things we've gone through together, and he's already on the same page with me as far as what we got to do. But you can't handle everything. You can't handle everything. There's sometimes your guys just got to do whatever he can to win that one-on-one matchup, and they can obviously move him around too and make life difficult. Not putting him in the same spot all the time.
The last time this fan base saw Fresno State play Oregon, it was a Chip Kelly team, well known for their explosive offenses. Can you describe what the identity you're seeing of this team is with Coach Cristobal, and how it's maybe a little different, perhaps, physicality-wise?
I think the mindset is the kind of the toughness and the physical, nature that they play with. Coach Inge said it really well. I thought that you got an offensive minded, line minded guy, and you can see that just dispersing across the whole team. Those are the teams that you get most nervous about because that they want to pound away at you, and they want to beat you and beat you bad, physically. And that's the ones that you just got to really make sure you're ready to play. He's doing a great job there, and I'm sure they've continued to build on what he has built in the past year.
And Coach Inge also mentioned you might have some good on good this week, a little more than normal perhaps, to hopefully get a fast start. Could you elaborate a bit on that and the plan there?
Yeah, we naturally do a little bit of that, but we definitely need to have a lot of emphasis on those reps when we go good versus good. Tomorrow, we'll have a couple periods where we do that, and you always have a 2-minute drill that you mix in, usually on a Wednesday, and any of those bonus reps, that we can get because of that, that's really helpful, because the speed is certainly going to be a big piece of this weekend.
Take one last question for Coach DeBoer.
I just have one more quick question. Injury-wise, Trey Watson, when will he be back? Is he going to be back this weekend?
Yeah, he was really coming along at the end of the week. Early in the week last week, he was, making progress, but not fast enough. And, considering we still are good with, Juan and Ray, we just wanted to make sure he got healthy here before we threw him out there and stuff. So I'm optimistic that he'll be out on the field tomorrow in some capacity, doing some things, and as the week goes on, doing more and more. Sorry about my voice. Saturday was wild. I was fired up and excited, so sounds really bad right now, but it's all good.
After all that crowd noise, you're going to be.
It's not going to get any better, is it? So, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's January.
Yeah.